My dear beautiful souls, aligned to this great presentation through the PMC English channel on Harold Baldwin Percival's book Thinking and Destiny and the spiritual wisdom contained in this book. This session, we would like to present to you the subject matter being breath form and consciousness. I am accompanied in this presentation by Purnima, a senior meditator who has also read the book almost 3 years back. So let us try to understand what this great author wants to present to us. But I may state that in his foreword and even in the course of the book, he makes us understand that all the message, all the wisdom that has come to him is not derived from any book or any authority. It has come directly to him after he had an experience of light, myriad experience of very powerful light entering his body, and from then on, he has been in receipt of this great wisdom. So it is for the reader and the listener to take what he believes could be applicable to him. And since there is no information about the source from which the matter has been conveyed to him, but it is very obvious these are all something in the form of medium which has been conveyed to him by astral masters. So off we go to this great topic, breath form. Before that, I would like to give the definition given by Percival with respect to breath and breath form. Breath is the life of the blood, the pervader and the builder of tissue, the preserver and destroyer, by or in which all operations of the body continue to exist or pass out of existence until by thinking it is made to regenerate and restore the body to everlasting life.
Hello, friends, masters, and gods. So now we know the definition of the breath. So here he says that it is such an important part of our body that it gives life. It gives does the repair, does the doing the job of destroying some cells if need be, and also a very important part of our body. And he also mentions here that breath acts according to our thinking. Suppose our thinking is something negative, then that is actually produced in the body in a negative way. So that is what he means here. If it is positive, it will act positively. So how aware we should be about our thinking. He makes us clear to us that thinking makes even a lot of difference in our breath pattern, the breathing pattern. So as a meditator, I think it will be very easy for you to be aware of your thinking, and at the same time you can observe how your breath pattern changes, how calm you become, how centered you will be, how tranquil you will feel. So actually breath plays a very important role in our body.
Breath form is a nature unit which is the individual living form or soul of each human body. Its breath builds and renews and gives life to tissue according to the pattern furnished by the form, and its form keeps in form the structure, its body, during its presence in the body. Death is a result of its separation from the body. The breath form in certain phases of its functioning includes that which psychology has termed the subconscious mind and the unconscious. It manages the involuntary nervous system. In this work, it functions according to the impressions which it receives from nature. It also carries out the voluntary movements of the body as prescribed by the thinking of the doer in the body. Thus, breath form functions as a buffer between nature and the immortal sojourner in the body, an automaton blindly responding to the impacts of objects and forces of nature and to the thinking of the doer.
So, friends, here we can see that Harold W. Percival has put it so beautifully, such a beautiful definition about breath form. Just as we have subtle bodies, apart from our physical body, we have subtle bodies like our etheric, astral, mental, causal, supracausal, everything. Just like that, our breath also has a nature unit, a subtle part of it, and that is the breath form, is what I understood here. And it also creates so much of, so much of activity goes on by our thinking in the breath form. There is so much happening. If we want to regenerate or rebuild the physical body, the positive thoughts of ours affect the breath form, and thereby that is done in the body by the breath form. So, and also it acts as a automaton, that's what he says. It takes all the impressions from our thinking and produces that the same effects in the body. So, we should be aware of our thinking here also. So, but what we can understand from these paragraphs are that breath form is so subtle, and all the thinking and the impressions that we carry is imprinted on the breath form. That's why you can see there are so many, we carry so many things from our previous lifetimes. We carry so many the diseases or whatever we carry is from our previous lifetimes, because breath form comes from one lifetime to the other. I think we will be reading that in the further upcoming paragraphs. We will be reading about that. But what we can understand is it is always there with us. The breath form is always present with us throughout our re-existences and throughout our life. Throughout life it's present.
Your body is literally the result of your thinking. Whatever it may show of health or disease, you make it so by your thinking and feeling and desiring. Your present body of flesh is actually an expression of your imperishable soul, your breath form. It is thus an exteriorization of the thoughts of many lifetimes. It is a visible record of your life and of your thinking and doings as a doer up to the present. In this fact lies the germ of the body's perfectibility and immortality.
So, in this paragraph you can see, friends, that how breath form has been there, how our thinking throughout our lives and this present lifetime, the breath form is carrying the impressions and the germ he says, the impressions to this life. So, how it is connected, and that's how you can see, for example, we will take a small example of a child which has a particular disease. The impressions that are created are not from this lifetime of the child, but it is carried on from the previous lifetimes. So even that's not, it's true not only for a child but for the adults too. Like they also have diseases, but all those diseases are actually their own thinking which has been exteriorized. So it has been exteriorized in the form of disease. The thinking, everything depends on the thinking. So thinking, feeling and desiring is what Percival is mentioning here.
Continuing the breath form contents by Percival, he says, the living soul is an actual and literal fact. It shows that its purpose and its functioning are of great importance in the universal plan and that it is indestructible. It is explained that that which has been called the soul is a nature unit, an elemental, a unit of an element, and that this conscious but unintelligent entity is the furthest advanced of all the nature units in the makeup of the body. It is the senior elemental unit in the body organization, having progressed to that function after a long apprenticeship in the myriad lesser functions comprising nature.
So here we can see that what he has explained the definition of the soul. The soul, he says, is always with us, but it has come after one existence after the other. It is an elemental unit, nature unit, that is always present, but it is the highest, a highest form of ourself, the soul, and he actually equates it to the breath form later on. So we can see a little more on that.
Being thus the sum of all of nature's laws, this unit is qualified to act as the automatic general manager of nature in human body mechanism. As such, it serves the immortal doer through all its re existences by periodically building a new fleshly body for the doer to come into and maintaining and repairing that body for as long as the destiny of the doer may require, as determined by the doer's thinking.
So beautifully put by Mr. Percival. The soul is the one which is giving us new physical bodies. That is the message from this para we can get. It is also the automatic general manager, he says, and in the body it is in the form of the breath form. That is what we can understand, and it is the actually with the thinking, the human's thinking, it can go up to, our thinking can go up to the highest level, that is the state of nirvana or the Buddha state, where we don't really need to come back onto the earth. So until that consciousness has developed up to the Buddha's state of mind, we will be the soul will be deciding to create new fresh bodies to come back to the earth again and again. So until we develop our mind to that level, we cannot escape from getting back onto the earth, friends. That is what I could get from this paragraph. What he says is, as we become more and more aware of everything that's happening in and around us, we will be able to achieve the Buddha state, and we no longer need to come back to the earth. So that is decided by our thinking. So change your thinking and you can become a Buddha.
This unit is termed the breath form. The active aspect of the breath form is the breath. The breath is the life, the spirit of the body. It permeates the entire structure. The other aspect of the breath form, the passive aspect, is the form or model, the pattern, the mold, according to which the physical structure is built out into visible, tangible existence by the action of the breath. Thus, the two aspects of the breath form represent life and form by which structure exists.
So here we can see very important, two very important points. The breath form gives new life to us every new lifetime, and the breath form also has the mold or the pattern or the blueprint of our body, of how we should be, of our life, a blueprint of our life, which is formed according to our thinking. So that is what we get from this paragraph.
The breath form in certain phases of its functioning includes that which psychology has termed the subconscious mind and the unconscious. It manages the involuntary nervous system. In this work, it functions according to the impressions which it receives from nature. It also carries out the voluntary movements of the body as prescribed by thinking of the doer in the body. It functions as a buffer between nature and the immortal sojourner in the body, an automaton blindly responding to the impacts of objects and forces of nature and to the thinking of the doer. Your body is literally the result of your thinking. Whatever it may show of health or disease, you make it so by your thinking and feeling and desiring. Your present body of flesh is actually an expression of your imperishable soul, that is, your breath form. It is thus an exteriorization of the thoughts of many lifetimes. It is a visible record of your thinking and doings as a doer up to the present. In this fact lies the germ of the body's perfectibility and immortality.
So friends, here it's so very important at this point of time. Everybody should understand here so very clearly. Mr. Percival has given us this knowledge. He says that our physical body and our state of health or disease is directly proportional to our thinking. The negative thinking gets all the diseases, negative and disastrous thinking, and the miraculous and positive thinking people have pure health. And it's so many, and all these impressions we have been carrying from many lifetimes, and which is all imprinted in the breath form. And he also goes on to say that the breath form is a kind of, in the terms of psychology, he mentions that it is the subconscious or the unconscious mind, which the psychologists term it that way. So but he calls it breath form. And so many things the breath form is doing here, we can see. So it carries all the impressions from many lifetimes. So if we have had any previous negative thinking, that is, which we have been carrying from our previous lifetimes, I think as a meditator we should clear that away. We will get to know that if we are having pure health now, it shows that we have been carrying good and very good thinking patterns in our previous lifetimes, and that has been imprinted in your breath form, and that's why we are enjoying pure health now. So if we are having any disease, it clearly shows that we have been carrying those impressions in our breath form with bad and negative thinking pattern. So it's high time that we remove all the fear and all the negative thinking patterns, and have a pure and as far as possible an empty mind, so that we have very good health. And we should not have, at this point of time I would like to mention that many people around us are carrying that fear of the epidemic which is happening now. I think according to this book, he says that your thinking causes all the diseases, or everything is psychosomatic, or everything is dependent on your thinking. So let us not have the fear, let us not have the fear of any kind of disease, or any kind of, let us not encourage any kind of negative thinking. Even if it is your friends or neighbors, if they come to you with negative words, tell them to sit and meditate. Let them also develop the courage, and let us only encourage positive thinking and miraculous thinking.
There is nothing so very strange today in the idea that man will one day attain to conscious immortality, that he will eventually regain a state of perfection from which he originally fell. Some statements in this book, however, will quite possibly seem strange, even fantastic, until enough thought has been given to them. For instance, the idea that the human physical body may be made incorruptible, everlasting, and may be regenerated and restored to a state of perfection and eternal life from which the doer long ago caused it to fall, and further, the idea that the state of perfection and eternal life is to be gained not after death, not in some faraway, nebulous hereafter, but in the physical world while one is alive. This may indeed seem very strange, but when examined intelligently, it will not appear to be unreasonable.
So friends, so very beautifully again he has put, I can't stop appreciating Percival, because these words are pearls of wisdom. I feel like really that way, because it's so very precious. So let us see what he has told in this particular paragraph. What I got to understand was, he says we can achieve perfect human bodies, we can achieve that immortality. That is, we need not have to always die and get the Buddha, the nirvanic state, but we can do it while in the body. And here I remember only one master, and that is Mahavtar Babaji, who has been actually having a perfect body, and also having that so very full of wisdom. So this paragraph just suggests that each one of us can achieve that state. That is what he's mentioning here. He has made it so very simple and brought it all to the common man, and that's what we are trying to do through this channel, and trying to bring all the knowledge to you, making it simpler to you. So I hope you all can follow that. So just by thinking and just by having that wonderful feeling of positive vibrations, or positive and miraculous thinking, we can change our lives and have a perfect physical body with the highest nirvanic state. So that is what he mentions here, and it's not difficult is what he's telling us all.
What is unreasonable is that the physical body of man must die. Still more unreasonable is the proposition that it is only by dying that one can live forever. Scientists have of late been saying that there is no reason why the life of the body should not be extended indefinitely, although they do not suggest how this could be accomplished. Certainly, human bodies have always been subject to death, but they die simply because no reasonable effort has been made to regenerate them.
So this is also wonderfully put again. It's a continuation of the previous paragraph only, but he says that we can do that. We can regenerate our body. We can actually have that full health and still be a master. And that is what he is. And this body is not at all. It doesn't need to die at all. That is what he says. And that many masters like Hanuman and like Mahavtar Babaji have actually shown that to all of us, that they can have perfect health and still be here on the earth plane, and also be like a master.
In this book, in the chapter The Great Way, Percival says he has narrated how the body can be regenerated, which we will touch upon in later sessions of our program. And he says It is possible to regenerate the body and it can be restored to a state of perfection and be made a temple for the complete triune self. Sex power is another mystery which man must solve. It should be a blessing. Instead, man very often makes of it his enemy, his devil, that is ever with him and from which he cannot escape. Here again, he assures that the book will show how, by thinking, to use it as a great power for good, which it should be, and how, by understanding and self control, to regenerate the body and accomplish one's aims and ideals in ever progressive degrees of accomplishment.
So here we can see that he is not Percival is not very he is making it clear to us that any kind of addiction will cause a lot of problems to our physical body, is what he is told here. So we will be able to have complete control over our desires and feelings and thinking, with a lot of lot of other that is miraculous thinking, and also great conscious breathing patterns. We will be able to have control over our mind and body. So there is a separate chapter in this book, The Great Way, and we will be getting to you those messages shortly.
There are some more on breath form, which I will continue. Every human being is a double mystery, the mystery of himself and the mystery of the body he is in. He has and is the lock and key to the double mystery. The body is the lock and he is the key in the lock. The purpose of this book is to tell you how to understand yourself as the key to the mystery of yourself, how to find yourself in the body, how to find and know your real self as self knowledge, how to use yourself as a key to open the lock which is your body, and through your body, how to understand and know the mysteries of nature. You are in and you are the operator of the individual body machine of nature. It acts and reacts with and in relation to nature. When you solve the mystery of yourself as the doer of your self knowledge and the operator of your body, you will know in each detail and altogether that the functions of the units of your body are laws of nature. You will then know the known as well as the unknown laws of nature and be able to work in harmony with the great nature machine through its individual body machine in which you are.
So here Percival says that we are the key, and our physical body is the lock, and through our physical body many things can be known. There is so much unknown, so many things are unknown to us. We can unlock that with the keys that we have within us, and know so many things about nature and the laws of nature. Everything can be known through the body itself, is what is mentioned by Percival here.
Another mystery is time. Time is ever present as an ordinary topic of conversation, yet, when one tries to think about it and tell what it really is, it becomes abstract, unfamiliar, and it cannot be held. One fails to grasp it, it eludes, escapes, and is beyond one. Time is the change of units or of masses of units in their relation to each other. This simple definition applies everywhere and under every state or condition, but it must be thought of and applied before one can understand it. The doer must understand time while in the body and awake. Time seems to be different in other worlds and states. To the conscious doer, time seems to be the same while awake as well as in dreams or while in sleep, deep sleep, or when the body dies, or while passing through the after death states, or while waiting for the building and the birth of the new body which it will inherit on the earth. Each one of these time periods has an in the beginning, a succession, and an end. Time seems to crawl in childhood, run in youth, and race in ever increasing speed until death of the body. Time is the web of change, woven from the eternal to the changing human body. The loom on which the web is woven is breath form. The body mind is the maker and operator of the loom, spinner of the web, and weaver of the veils called past or present or future. Thinking makes the loom of time, thinking spins the web of time, thinking weaves the veils of time, and the body mind does the thinking.
So, friends, he is talking about time here. He says it's a web. That's what I grasped from the first part. It is also a kind of loop, a kind of web which we are caught into, and all this is happening in our mind through our thinking. So we should proceed on to a timeless zone that will happen only with a no mind state. That is, in meditation I have had these experiences. I would have sat just for 5 minutes, but I would have traveled the whole universe. I have had that experience. I have traveled everywhere astrally, but I was back in just 5 minutes. So there is no time zone in other frequencies, but on earth there is time, and we are bound by time. And
Thinking makes the loom of time.
yes, the thinking is plays all the game here, and we are caught into that. But we should be able to have complete control of time also, and that will happen when we have control over our thinking and over our body.
Senses.
The senses, especially the senses, the feelings, the desires. So basically control over our mind and our body.
So, friends, thank you for this edition on breath form. We will continue with consciousness and other related subjects in the short coming sessions. Thank you once again.